Hello everyone, welcome to the Money Club series. I am your host, Zar Azmi, and we're joined by Sam Itchybum.
Itchybum.
Have I ever told you about that story about Itchybum?
No, I thought you were hassling me because I move around in the chair.
Well, I am half hassling you, but what happened, we were on the school bus back in the day, right? You would have been a baby, right? With your brother Ahmed.
Yeah.
And some Aussie bloke starts making fun of your brother, going, "Oh, what's your last name?" and you know, Ahmed's going, "Eljaban." And he goes, "What is it? Itchybum?" Some Aussie bloke, right, was making fun of him. So anyway, I think we bashed him, and then your brother never got made fun of again after that. But the rest is history. We became best friends after that.
How old were you at that time?
I reckon we would have had to be probably about 11 or 12, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's not good for my brother's mental health. Yeah.
Don't worry, he was fine after that beating. How are you, Sam?
Good, man, good. Hanging in there. It's tax peak season.
Have you been busy?
Oh, yeah. Very busy. I'm sure you have as well. We've been in meetings together with people.
Surprisingly, it's been very, very busy on the property front, right? Like our clients and investors they sort of don't even really care about these interest rate rises, right? Because they're very well educated. You know, they listen to this podcast 10 times over. They know that they're going in with no fear. So yeah, we've been very, very busy. It's been good.
It sounds like they're understanding that property is long term in your space. So whether it's interest rate rising now or other things that might be a little bit scary, it's a long-term approach. So
well, they say you shouldn't make long-term predictions on short-term, metrics or something like that? Yeah.
So forget about the current situation, think long-term. It's good. That's why we talk about these things so people can get up to speed on it. So very good listeners, well done. Keep coming to us.
I love it. So what are we talking about today, Sam?
Today we're going to go through, well, it's really talking about education and people listening. It's pretty much some books and other people we've listened to. I guess we can call it, say, the top 10 money authors we've been watching or listening to or reading over time, their impact, some of the lessons that they've shed light on to us that have sort of helped our psychology. And I think really what the reading of these books and the reading of these authors does is really shape how you think. And really, when at the end of the day, money and how you treat money is all about how you think. And if you're not thinking about money, it's going to play games on you. You have to play games with it, right? So
you've got to become the master of it rather than the master of you.
Otherwise, you're going to be fucked. You get into debt. You'll be struggling. You might have a big mortgage you can't pay. So really, it's these types of people, these books we read that try and galvanize our sort of understanding of how money works, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, and things to really stick in your mind so you don't fuck up, really.
And personal finance is like a passion of ours, right? We actually really, really love it, and I'm sure like a lot of our listeners love it as well. But this is really fitting because I've just written 2 books myself, and for our listeners, that will be released very, very soon. So maybe I'll make it into top 10 authors.
We'll be talking about your books later.
Yeah, so in good time, that will get released. But for now, we wanted to talk about some authors that maybe you have heard of them, right? Yep. Or maybe you haven't. But there are a lot of mainstream authors out there. Like we talk about Kiyosaki a lot, Grant Cardone. Like he's got a massive online presence. Yep. Everybody knows who these people are. But we sort of want to steer away from those guys because there's an abundance of that type of content online, and I'm sure our listeners are, I guess, big fans of those people. So we wanted to go towards people that maybe you wouldn't consider reading a book from, and maybe after listening to this podcast, you'll go out and buy these books and read them in detail and learn a few things. Yeah,
I think everyone has something to offer, right? So what's his name again?
Cardone.
I was going to say Cardano, the crypto I lost money on.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Cardone and Kiyosaki, they've done their path in life, and you can learn things that they've done on their path. But there's other people that have done other things that you can learn from as well. So you can follow certain people all the way and all that kind of stuff, but you're only getting a narrow sort of education from their point of view. And they haven't done everything that other people have done. So even though you might have favorites, it's still good to explore what other people think. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what other people know. So broaden your readings. It'll just give you a better education.
Well, we talk about trying to follow maybe 1 or 2, 3 people, you know, at the most go deep with those people.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you can't take some good things from everybody else. And, you know, I think last year I went mad on reading books, right?
How many a week?
I did one a week. I think I actually did more. So it ended up being about 60 for the whole year last year. They were actual paperback books. So that takes up a lot of time. I think now this year I've gone into like Audible. Even on YouTube you can get audio books on there basically for free. It's much more efficient. You know, if you do say an hour of exercise a day, 7 days a week, you can get through.
That's right.
You know, a full book, because usually it's around 7 or 8 hours, right? So much more efficient for me now because I'm so time poor. But it's very important to just keep taking in that knowledge. And even if you have to read books 3-4 times over, you always get some sort of golden nugget from it. So let's dive in. Let's start off with an author by the name of Rob Moore. Rob Moore is he's a bloke from the UK. He's sort of like a money expert. The title of the book that he's most well known for is actually called Money.
Okay.
Now this book, it's pretty long, but it's great for people that are just wanting to dip their toe into personal finance. It covers everything, but he's big on leverage.
Leverage, okay.
So things like leveraging other people's time, leveraging other people's expertise, other people's money. So when people think of leverage, they think they're just going to borrow so much money. But it's not the case. You can leverage a lot of other things as well. Like he even talks about leveraging you know, the mundane tasks that you do day to day. You know, do you leverage that out to someone else? So for example, would you go and clean your house, right? If you put your hourly rate down to say $1,000 an hour, would you spend 2 hours cleaning your house, or would you just pay someone maybe $80 or whatever it's going to cost, right? That will save you time there, so you can go and focus on bigger things.
Yeah, leverage, it's because we talk about money all the time, it's sort of, we do focus on it being leveraging of money, but like you said, you can leverage many other things, people, their time, their skills. So if anyone's in business, a lot of people are listening, your business doesn't operate unless you leverage, whether that's your money, the bank's money, if you've got a loan, if you have staff, their expertise and their time, you can't do everything on your own. So nearly everyone, even employees, are leveraging. They might be leveraging their own money in their own personal life. People that they're working with at the office, they'll leverage their relationships. You know, in the office, there's a lot of politics, and sometimes to get ahead or even get things done, you need to call upon your friendships within the office, which is leverage. So I think if that's a topic explored in that book, it's a very good one to get across very well, because to achieve anything you have to do things together, and that usually, whether that's with other people's money, their time, their effort, them on side with you, it all comes from leverage and how to utilize leverage, right?
And it all comes down to maximizing your position, right, Sam? So whether you're wanting to get as far ahead as possible, and this goes into, I guess, another thing he talks about is creating wealth, right? You can't just go out and earn money. Like most people focus on income, which is very important, because the higher income you have, the more wealth you can create, right? And the better life you can have. But really, the sole focus should be about creating wealth. And the only way you're going to create wealth is you get that earned income and then leverage it into things like real estate and then make wealth that way. Like, I'll give you an example. I've got a friend who owns a really successful real estate agency firm, and he was talking to me about doing just a small scale development that was going to net him, I think it was between $1 to $2 million, right, in profit. And he said to me, he goes, Zart, to make $1 to $2 million in earned income from my business would take so much work. But what I'm doing is using the business as a vehicle to get leverage to do the development, so I can return $1 to $2 million net, right, from basically doing nothing, because he's leveraging everybody else. He's leveraging the builders, he's leveraging all of the experts like architects, the bank's money, all of that sort of stuff. And he's actually replacing his income through wealth, right? Rather than his earned income, because it would take so much effort to create $1 to $2 million through his business.
Yeah. So really leverage, I think it's the most, to be an entrepreneur, what he's doing is entrepreneurship in the property space. He's in business as well. Any entrepreneur needs to know leverage. Otherwise you can't get anything done. You have a certain amount of time in your day. You know, we have busy days. We don't have like abundance of time. To get things done, you need other people involved, and that's leveraging. So in that case, he's leveraging the builders, all that kind of stuff. For him to achieve his goal, he can't do it without leverage. And in that space, he's leveraging money, or nearly everything you could leverage, he's leveraging, and he's going to, you know, make a massive amount of money. So it's a very good take. I think leverage and creating wealth go hand in hand. You sort of can't do it. You could do it, say, in a money aspect, but without leverage, the growth won't be so big. Because you can, say, put 10 grand into something and get returns, but if you leverage that 10 grand and make it 100 and get returns on the 100, you'll make a lot more money. So
and we actually get a lot of people, Sam, who come to us and say, "Hey, I've got $1 million in the bank. I don't need loans. I'll just you know, do everything cash
outright."
And it's like, you can do that and you will make a return. But you can 10x it or you can 5x it, whatever it is, through, you know, leverage, because there's a lot of cheap debt out there. And if you've got the numbers to support it, you might as well. And this is how the rich create big wealth, right?
Yeah, leverage, 100%.
Let's go into one of your boring ones.
Yeah, mine's not that exciting, unfortunately. Mine, okay, the book I've
How do you even say this guy's name?
Giannis.
Why did you pick this bloke?
Giannis, go get fuckers. Sorry, he won't listen to. I don't know if he listens to us. Giannis Varoufakis. I've talked about him before. He's a champion. If you really want to understand the economy, right, and how it is today, and like, because the economy, it didn't just happen overnight. It's taken hundreds of years to get to how it is right now. And why is it how it is right now? Why are there banks? You know, why do we have a thing called money? No one really thinks about it. They just know they have to go to work to make money. But why? And why is it there? And, you know, is it worth something? Is it not worth something? So a book, it's catering for the layman, okay? It's based on the title, really. It tells you it's for a layman that doesn't know the
What's
economy.
the title?
Talking to my daughter about the economy, okay? So if you don't have a daughter, it doesn't matter, you can still read the book. Very educational. I did economics in high school and some in uni. It's very technical. It can get like boring, as you say.
For our viewers, it's all coming back to me now. Sam actually bought this book for me as a present. Yes, and I did start reading it. I think I struggled to finish it, but it was a very hard book.
Really, you struggled? Oh, damn.
It was a hard book to read.
But if you like economics...
But let's break it down for our listeners.
Break it down. Okay, really the gist of it is understanding the past. Okay, he makes you understand the past so you know how things work, so you can predict the future. What
I'm just thinking,
what happened?
Giannis can go and get fucked.
All right, this is the accounting in me, man. It's the theory of how things work. I love trying to understand how things work. And maybe it's not for everyone, but what you'll take from it is...
It's a lot of history, right?
It's a history. Yeah. It's a history of how the economy came to be. But there's a lot of, you know, nuggets, as you would say, of things to learn. Pretty much around banking, how it started, how it works, and really their agenda. And once you understand the banking agenda and what they're in society for, one, they're there to make money, firstly. So we talk about it all the time, how a bank is set up to write a loan. They're in the business of making money from loans. So they don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. They're there to make money. And they don't keep your money, is another thing you will learn from this book. Is there's a thing called fractional reserve banking. You'll put $100 in the bank. With that $100, they owe you, right? So that's a debt to them, to you. They'll lend out an asset to them about 100 times that, or 10 times that. That $100 becomes $1,000 lent out.
So it's funny. Your mate Cardone talks about this, right? Like someone goes out,
Yeah.
works really, really hard, and then goes and puts money in the bank, and then they'll call up someone like me or you or Cardone and go, hey, do you want to borrow it?
That's right.
We've actually got 10x what this person, this dummy has put into the bank.
Yeah.
Do you want to borrow it so you can go off and make more money? And that's
it.
how...
So they're leveraging based on your previous topic, but so they're using your money to make money by lending it out. So why wouldn't you just invest the money yourself? Not in the bank, but in other stuff. So
because the bank's doing it.
The bank's doing it.
Yeah.
Like
So you got to operate like a bank, really.
operate like a bank. So they see money. The more you get into it, you realize money really has the value of it's going down. They don't want money; they want it in other stuff. This will go through the history a lot more about that kind of stuff, but it'll just open your eyes about how this system came to be.
Yes.
So it's boring, but very good.
No, this book is now coming back to me. It was quite interesting. So Giannis, don't go and get fucked. Stick around because there's a lot of value in that book. Let's go into one of my ones.
Yes.
Darren, we actually got 11 today.
Is that?
Yeah, so we've
I think we got different
we've broken the
scripts.
rules.
I don't have. Oh, we got 11. Yeah, sorry.
We'll go with Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect.
Nice. Okay.
So this book is a bread and butter sort of book, and it's not just on money. It's really about creating those small habits over a long period of time. And whether it comes to money or habits to your lifestyle, like they go through things like exercise, and like if you don't exercise for say 40 years, then all of a sudden you start going to the gym.
You're gonna pull a hamstring.
Yeah, you're sort of behind, right? But if you do just a little bit every day, even if it's just 30 minutes, but you do that for the first 40 years, then you're going to be well ahead out of everybody else. And the compound effect can go the other way.
Yes.
It can go, like, for example, credit card debt, right? Like you can just keep piling up, and you'll just get eaten alive by the interest rate. So with the compound effect with property, for example, that's why we promote our 10-year acquisition strategy so early on. So the sooner you can start, the sooner you'll start reaping the benefits, because you get to a certain point where you have that exponential growth, right? And in property, it's usually after say 15, 20 years, and when you see that portfolio it literally has a life of its own. So the compound effect is really stripping things back to the basics, explaining if you start really, really early, but just with those small improvements over time, it's like those daily deposits that you make, you will create true wealth and happiness for yourself, whether that's through exercise, diet, money habits, all of that sort of thing. So I think a really good example is when you look at these young guys. When I say young guys, I'm talking people in, say, their late 20s who started investing in property when they were like 18. But they bought like shit properties. But they still killed it because they're in it so early that if they bought at 18, think about where they're going to be at 38, which is my age, right? So they've invested for 20 years, but because they've bought really, really early, and even if they're, I guess, not so good properties, they're still going to perform. And that's why as you get older and you start investing in property when you're older, you can't afford to sort of buy those less desirable properties because they're not going to, you don't have that time left.
Don't have time in the game.
That's right.
To make the same money they did. Yeah, I think it's so you're talking more, he explores like a snowball effect.
That's
if you
right.
keep doing small but diligent effort over time, it's going to make massive impact. Yeah, I see. I think that's really every client that comes to us has to get on that journey, because at the end of the day, when you invest in property, you have to take a hit to your money. So that's an effort, that's a sacrifice. It's all about sacrificing. These sacrifices you do now, you have to wait for that sort of payoff, but that snowball effect will come.
Another good example with the compound effect, I guess, is something that everybody does, but they don't know. If you're, an Australian citizen, a tax-paying citizen anyway, you would be paying super.
Yeah.
Right. And super is something that you contribute to, whether it's weekly, fortnightly, monthly, or annually, right? But that grows over time, and that compounds, and that's what it's designed to do, because it's interest on interest on interest. So that's something that everybody is doing in this book today. but you need to apply it into other areas of your life, because a lot of people, they might invest in one or two properties, for example, and then they'll stop, right? Yeah. And it's not enough. Yeah. Like yes, you'll get the compound effect on the one, but you want compound effect on 10.
Yes, right.
Right?
To have a nice retirement. So the super is like a safety net. They've enforced it. It's by law. You have to pay it to your employees, blah, blah, blah. But really, that's to help you not take the age pension, sorry. But that really only gives you a very bare minimum. So super, they're enforcing it upon you so you don't have to rely on the government for that basic pension, but really it's not enough, like you said. It'll give you something at least to potentially pay off your debt once you retire, if you've got a bit of mortgage happening in your life. But it's not gonna give you a nice lifestyle. That's why you have to do it outside. So take the same principle of, say, allocating money towards investing, like your super is automatically, and do it on your own accord as well to have a better life.
So super is 10% of your income, right?
It's gone up this year. I'm up to speed, 10.5%.
10.5% on your income. So if you can do 10.5% on something else, whether that's 10.5% of your day contributed to exercise, or all of these other things, but you do it every single day, I think you'll reap the benefits in the future. And the compound effect is actually a very short book, so you'll get through it really, really quickly. Okay. But I think it's a go-to bread and butter for anyone that wants to build a better life for themselves, not just money.
I'll have to read that one. Done.
So Sam, another boring one.
Another boring one. We'll go from exciting to boring, just to mix it up. Okay, another one. This guy is actually. Have you heard of him, Ray Dalio?
Yeah, I read about half of his book. It was hard to get through.
Or another one.
Principles?
This one.
Changing World Order. No, I read this one.
Again, I like the most boring of the boring topics.
That's why we're in partnership, so I don't have to do it.
But again, okay, this book's called. So Ray Dalio, he manages one of the biggest hedge funds, so a big investment firm.
He's actually had a lot to say lately regarding this upcoming, or this recession that we're going through and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think why he'd have a vested interest is the guy's fucking loaded.
He's a billionaire.
He's loaded. So he has things go sour.
Bridgewater, isn't it?
Yes, Bridgewater Associates. Yeah, he started it 30 years ago or something. So he has a vested interest in what's happening in the economy because he's a multi-billionaire. Right, so that guy would think if you have so much money and you don't want to lose it, you'd be an expert in what's happening around you so you don't fucking lose your money. So listening to him, he does have, he's not a mainstream voice. You don't see him very much on mainstream media. I think because he tells the truth, he doesn't parrot a story that he's told or fits the narrative that they want you to know. So I like it because it's refreshing. He doesn't say everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. He says there's problems. And this book is called The Changing World Order, Why Nations Succeed and Fail. It's very fucking serious compared to like personal finance, but it impacts us. So the changing of the world, because money is involved in politics, they go hand in hand. What this guy explores in this book is why nations succeed and fail. And really what it boils down to, if I summarize it very simply, it's how their currency is used, really. And how the manipulation of the currency, which is happening in America now, and the inflationary effects of printing too much currency, the taking off of the gold standard and money being too rampant in the economy, that can destroy big empires. And he explores throughout history how you really have to watch your currency and what you're doing with your money within a nation's sort of perspective, but it applies to us as well. You have to make sure what you're doing with your money. And really taking note of the macro stuff, which is what this book would talk about, you sort of need to know, because what if you've invested a lot of money in America and it's going to go down or something like that?
You want to know.
You want to know. And what if you're like overexposed or you have too much money out and you're not catering for buffers? So that macro stuff, even though it's sort of big and maybe not applies to us right now, it might over time.
Well, it might not apply to you directly.
Directly,
right?
correct.
But it does flow on to how we operate as individuals, because we need to know. Yeah. And as much as we make fun of these boring authors, what I'm impressed with, Sam, is that you've picked some authors who are really sort of big thinkers, and they're thinking about the operation of the world.
Yes.
And which it really does impact us. And I think, especially here in Australia, we're quite sheltered to the rest of the world, and it's really important to find out what the other nations are doing, because the other nations that we're sort of talking about, they're massive. They're much bigger than us in terms of size and population. So they have a lot more influence.
Correct. Yeah.
And you always say it, we generally sort of follow those other larger nations. So once they do something, then we pretty much follow, right? Once they raise interest rates, we do the same thing, right? Because we're I guess, looking for them for guidance. So it's really important to see which direction they're going in and what the big players are actually thinking the world is going in, because we need to be prepared for it.
That's right. That's right. So it's sort of just being across it. You don't have to be an expert, but just understand that things above us at a macro level can impact us, and it's good to have a little bit of a gauge on it.
All right, so Ray Dalio can stick around.
He can stick
right? We won't tell him
You
to
can
get
read
fucked.
him. You can read him. He's all right.
On the topic, I'm just jumping from these authors, so we're not going to do it in any particular order, but
that's right.
I want to go into Donald Trump. Because we're talking about
Controversial
big thinkers.
big man.
Yeah, so let's not talk about him as a politician or a president or anything like that, because we might start some really, really heated arguments here between myself and Sam. But what we really want to focus on is him with money, him with property, him with basically thinking big. And that's the title of the book that I first read. I think it was one of the first really good books that grabbed me when I started on this personal development journey. And he's done a few books. He's actually written a book with Robert Kiyosaki. It's titled Why We Want You to Be Rich, or something like that. That was a very good book. There was another one called The Midas Touch. That was with Kiyosaki. But Donald Trump has actually written a fair few books. I haven't read them all, but I really do love his stuff on real estate. And the one in particular that I love is called Think Big. And the reason why I loved it is because we get caught up so much in, these small investments that we make, our businesses and all of that sort of thing. And this guy really knows how to scale. And scaling a business, to me, is probably one of the hardest things you'll do in business, because getting a business up and running, there's challenges, but it's when you think about it, it's pretty easy, right? It's just time in the game. But figuring out how to scale and think bigger is a challenge, because it requires so much manpower. It requires so much smart thinking. And Donald Trump is the king of it. He's probably one of the most successful real estate investors in the world. And I've actually tried to find someone in Australia who is similar to that. And I'll probably compare him to Harry Triguboff from Meriton.
Okay.
Harry Triguboff is the founder of Meriton. He is the biggest property investor in Australia. So quite similar to Donald Trump. And this book, it talks about basically getting to a point where you're not really using any of your own money. You're just using your mind and your relationships, right? And when I say using your mind, he's talking about optioning massive multi-million-dollar land, sometimes multi-billion-dollar land sites, and using other people's funds and not putting a dollar of his own money in. This guy, he went bankrupt at one stage, and he was in the red by, I don't know how much it was, but it was massive. It was massive. I think it was almost $1 billion, right? But he ended up coming back because he was able to use his mind and his relationships and his contacts to put deals together to be able to get him in front to becoming one of the richest people in the world. It's an amazing story. Forget about him being a president, but as a real estate investor, a builder, all of those things, it's amazing the scale he achieved.
It's probably from one deal he got out of his trouble. So he's able to scale at that kind of level, where one deal he goes back as a billionaire or whatever. Good lesson from that is, and when we talk about these things from each book, is they're all intertwined. So scale, how do you scale? How was he scaling? He used his mind and people, which is leverage. He leveraged his idea and maybe an opportunity of land he found. He has connections in real estate, brokers, all that kind of stuff. And he was able to facilitate a deal no one else could, because he has unique, set of relationships and things like that he can leverage on. So it's intertwined. So the ability to scale really by default needs leverage, because you can't do everything yourself. You need to leverage other people to scale something. Just
Well,
like
he
in
started out
business.
as a builder, right, Sam? So he's
Was he
not
a
in.
builder? I didn't even know.
Well, yeah, his dad was a home builder, and I think his dad left him like $1 million or something like that, and then, mate, he just blew it up, right? But he's not the one on site hammering nails and, you know, lifting bricks and all of that sort of thing, right? Like that, and same with Harry Triggerboff. Like he was just the one coordinating everything, but you know, doing those projects on such a big scale is so inspirational, because it's kind of like, well, if he can do it, why can't we do it?
Yeah.
Right? You just got to start thinking bigger. And that's what I love about this book. It's about opening up your mind to the possibilities. We've talked about it before in other podcasts, going, you know, instead of saying you can't, say how.
How can
Right?
I? Yeah.
And all of a sudden you just go, okay, how? And I do it, you know, I do it all the time, right? I want something, whether it's a business or a piece of real estate or whatever it is. And I think, how am I going to do it? How? Rather than going, oh, I can't afford it, or I can't because I don't have the time.
Yeah.
No. How will I find the time? Right? And all of a sudden you become so creative and you think about it and you go, wow, now I know, right? I'll give you an example. We just got approved for a new rental property, and it's going to cost us a sizable sum out of our yearly expense, right? And I was like, okay, how am I going to supplement this, right? How am I going to pay for it? Not saying, oh, well, I can't
do it,
right? And literally in 24 hours, I was like, bang, I know how. I know where I'm going to pull it from. I know how I'm going to fund it. You know, this can work for anything. Like if you want, say, a new luxury vehicle, right? Why don't you ask yourself, how?
How can I do it?
How can I spend $200,000 on a new car, right? Ask yourself how you can solve that problem, and then all of a sudden you get creative and you start thinking of ways, right, to fund your new project.
So it's all up here. So it's not the problem, it's your attitude toward the problem. Instead of going negative, you went positive and you work out. Now
And you know what I love? Going back to Donald Trump, he didn't stop, right? Like he was like, how do I do bigger deals? How?
So he was never content, he kept going.
Always keep going, right? Like the conservative route is just to go, okay, I'll just do enough. I'll just do enough because everybody else is doing the same thing. No, figure out how you can blow up. Like I'll tell you a funny story, Sam. About 5 years ago, I went to search for a mentor in property to get me from, I guess, where was it? I think it was like 5 million to 10 million or whatever it was, right? Anyway, so I walked into this meeting to this guy came highly recommended, right? And he goes, what do you want to do? And I said, well, mate, I want to build a $100 million portfolio. And he had an intern with him and they both laughed, right? And I said, rightio, just get me from 5 to 10, right? Now, when I hit, this was only like probably 6 years ago. Now, I've surpassed this bloke, right? And I'm very, very well on my way. And I don't talk about my massive big goals to many people, but I thought it was a confidential meeting. I thought these guys are mentors, they're going to be really supportive of it. And you know what happened? They were just like, well, we'll get you from say 5 to 10 and just be happy with that, right? And I was like, no. How am I going to scale and 10x that? And like, I've got a plan, right? Because I've figured it out. And in my head, I'm like, I know how I'm going to get there. I already know. But a lot of people will talk about big goals and they'll get laughed at, you know, just like I did. But, you know, people are going to laugh at you because they don't really want you to hit that goal.
They don't want you to succeed. They don't want you to succeed. Probably more than them. They don't want you to get to 10 if they're at 7.
Exactly.
You know, they don't want you to surpass them. So you got to find your supporters.
And the supporters are people like Donald Trump, you know what I mean? Where Ray Dalio, where they've done the big stuff, right? So seek wisdom into these big players.
Done. All right, my next one. Okay, Dan Ariely. He wrote a book called Dollars and Cents. This one is another sort of economics-based book. I read it quite some time ago, but its main theme of what it's trying to get across to you, which is what we talk about nearly all the time, because it's got to do with choice and its opportunity costs. Okay, so in economics, it's a term used quite a lot because it's really telling you if you go down one path, what is it costing you in terms of the other opportunity you can't take?
Opportunity cost, yeah.
Opportunity cost. So if I, for example, go on a $25,000 round the world trip, I'll have a mad time, but instead of doing that, I could have had a 5% deposit on a property that makes me money, something like that, right? Or if I want to go and have a nice, what did we have the other day? Dark chocolate, right? Even though it's quite healthy, it's adding calories. The opportunity cost of that is I might have to go to the gym more. There's a
consequence.
There's consequences to your actions. So what he tries to explain in this mainly, there's other topics and things within the book, but the main gist of it is trying to understand the term or the concept of opportunity cost. And it's very important because really there's only a certain amount of choices we can make or directions we can take from choices. And understanding what you may lose from going down a certain path is important because it can hold you back. For example, if we go back to money, property, that's what we talk about quite a lot. We see it a lot with people buying the home. Okay, the opportunity cost of, say, buying a $1.5 million house in Sydney to live in is building a portfolio of property that might pay you money. So the act of buying a home, even though it's quite noble and you know there's some benefits of doing it, there's an opportunity cost of you probably can't build a portfolio if you buy your own home, depending on your circumstances. So that came into my mind when I was growing my portfolio. I was like, do I do the home? What's the cost of me doing the home?
It's what most people think about.
It's one of the most the main
Which path
things.
do I go down?
What path?
Do I rent vest or do I buy the home and get handcuffed for 30 years?
That's it. So really understanding what that means, it's really about assessing choices you have in your life. It could be away from money, it could be relationships, it could be who you include in your life, it could be investment decisions, could be anything. Most of them, revolve around money. Money is a big thing. That's why we get up every day to work to make money.
I got a good example for that, Sam. I actually haven't personally read this book, so I'd be interested in reading this one actually. A friend came to me the other day and he said his grandmother had a choice to inherit, I think it was some land or some cash. Oh. She took the cash, right? This was a long time ago. She blew the cash, right? I think it was like 800 grand or something like that. It's all gone, right? She went traveling. She enjoyed it. I think she bought some property outright and all of that sort of stuff. But the land was later, it became developed.
Yeah, rezoned and stuff.
Oh, and millions.
Would have made a million.
The brothers, right? So her brothers, they took the land.
Yep.
And they developed on it, and they're multi-millionaires now. And that is a really good example of the different paths where it can lead you, right? I'm not saying she necessarily done the wrong thing, but you can see the massive difference because they all were getting the same either land value amount or cash amount, and they just had the option. What do I take?
What do you want?
So let's say it was 30 years ago, right? She took the cash and the brothers took 2 lots of land, and they are well on their way to building. Oh, well, they've built generational wealth to pass down to their grandkids.
Yeah,
right.
Massive.
And then my friend, who is the grandchild, is going to end up with nothing, right?
Yeah.
We'll probably have to pay for a funeral one day. So like it's a big difference, right? And a lot of people, they look at the path now and they think, okay, what's going to make me feel good
now?
What's going to give me that instant gratification now? But what they don't realize is 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it's going to pass. So what's going to be the right decision now for me in 30 years' time?
That's right.
Right? You've got to think about that.
It's all long term. Another quick example before we go on. There was the Lion King, the guy who voiced Simba. He had the option to take a salary or some sort of fixed price contract for his role in that, or he could take a percentage of revenue,
like a royalty
from the Lion King. He took the royalties. He's loaded, and he continues getting paid today. So he had that choice back in the day. Do I take a reimbursement for my time, which could have been quite high, or a smaller clip of a longer term revenue? And he took the revenue and he's laughing.
Wow.
So it's all about choice.
Recurring income.
Recurring passive.
Can I tell you a story about recurring income? I just read it the other day. Our listeners are going to love this, right? P. Diddy. Do you remember that song he ripped off on by Sting? Missing You or Miss You or something like that.
Yeah. About Notorious.
So yes, that's right. Apparently, he didn't get the permission.
Oh no.
So do you know how much he has to pay Sting for, I guess, the life?
Like 20 years worth of royalties or something.
$2,000 a day
From now on.
from now onwards.
Oh my God. A day?
$2,000 a day.
So that's 600 grand a year.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, the
300
human calculator. Yes,
300,
it is.
300 times 2.
Yes.
600,000.
How's that for
every year,
recurring
500,000.
income?
Wow.
So, Sam, write a song and get P. Diddy to rip it off.
It'd only be about economics, man. I've got nothing else to say.
All right,
about,
let's
bro.
move on.
What's your one?
Is it mine or yours?
I did dollars and cents.
I'm going to do a boring one, right? It's just to help Sam out, just to make him feel better. Thomas J. Stanley. He's the famous. He's not around anymore. I think his daughter has sort of taken on the role of continuing writing books. I think he was a doctor.
Yep.
But he wrote the famous book called The Millionaire Next Door. Now, I don't really agree with a lot of things in The Millionaire Next Door for me personally now, because I'm at a stage where I can sort of expand and sort of enjoy what I've made. And
You
all
are
that
the
sort of thing.
millionaire next door.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, but this book is really good for people who are just starting out and are needing to be frugal, are needing to save money, are needing to know that real millionaires aren't the flashy ones on social media and all of that sort of thing.
Yep.
They're actually ordinary people, and that's why it's called The Millionaire Next Door, because it could be a next door neighbor. So he talks about it's real basic principles like saving money, invest it, buy secondhand cars, all of that sort of thing. Which I'm at a stage now which is a bit different to that, but I think it's really critical when you're really, really young to learn this sort of stuff, because with social media now, it's sort of giving us this warped perception of what wealth and happiness and what it really is and where it really comes from. Because we talk about it all the time, there's that period of sacrifice where you can't really buy the designer stuff, right? You can't buy the fancy car, you can't go on the holidays, you really need to just knuckle down, get good at something, right? Maybe not so... be so niche with what industry you're going to. The bread and butter stuff tends to really, really work. And if you can do that throughout your 20s, then you'll probably be able to enjoy yourself in your 30s. We talk about it all the time. It's so boring, right? It is so boring, but there's a period of sacrifice where you have to knuckle down and delay that gratification. And, you can drive around in the shitbox car, you know what I mean? Go to Target and do your shopping there.
You got to do the boring stuff before you do the exciting stuff, really. So you have to, all the saving of money during, the first few years of what you're doing. Even when we talk about property investment, we say how the basis of your portfolio is the run-of-the-mill, boring type stuff. You buy something off the plan, a nice townhouse, you don't get to enjoy it. It's nothing too fancy. You're not building. It's not flashy. You're not a developer. But you're going through the hard yards, that kind of stuff, being frugal, buying as many as you can to build the base, to do the exciting stuff.
You're building your foundation, right?
Yeah.
So the 10-year acquisition strategy, just for example, like you said, it's very boring. But if you can start at, say, 20 years old and finish at 30, then at 30, in your 30s, you're going to be able to enjoy and do all the sexy stuff. You can do your developments, you can do your commercial, you can buy your designer stuff. Like you can really enjoy it. But it's a really good 10 to 15 years of sacrifice. And that's what Thomas J. Stanley talks about. He's got plenty of good books, actually. The Millionaire Mind. His daughter's written The Next Millionaire Next Door, because it's a little bit more updated. So I really encourage our young listeners to get really deep into that type of reading, because it will really, really help you and build that foundation for you.
Yeah, because the younger guys have an issue now, because they've flipped that idea on its head where they want everything now.
Well, you've got girls who are 15, 16 years old
with designer bags,
with $10,000, $15,000 designer handbags, right? Like it's madness. It's madness. So it's really important to realize what reality is, because look, our market is the working class. Like we don't like. Listeners who are listening to this podcast, they mainly are the working class. They're trying to get ahead. So all of that shit doesn't matter. You've got a lot of wealthy families looking after their kids in different ways where, you may not agree with, but it's not reality, right? The majority of the population need to sacrifice. And I think even if you have money, you should be sacrificing, right? Even if you have money, you should be restricting your kids from, that whole glamorous, lifestyle, because you want to build that foundation, because if shit hits the fan for that person, you want to know that that person can survive.
100%. It's going to be interesting moving forward with the baby boomers and inheritance coming through.
The big transfer of wealth.
If they've got big money coming and they don't know how to utilize it, manage it, and they're going to blow it like that, which
it's going to happen.
A lot of people are going to do it.
It's going to happen.
There's going to be a lot of wasted wealth. We should maybe start designing handbags.
Yes, yes.
Make some money. Next one for me. Good one. I actually borrowed the book off yourself.
Still haven't returned it.
Haven't I?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's been about 2 years. Have you read it yet?
No, I did. I think I lent it to someone else.
Okay.
It was that good.
Leverage.
That's right. Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. So the book talks about timeless lessons on wealth, greed, and happiness. Okay. Everything we've talked about today has been a lot about psychology with money. This guy pretty much goes through everything about it. One key takeaway, which you already touched on, but it was a good point in this book, was the compound effect. Really, the compound effect, as we discussed, it takes time to get to that compounding sort of level where it benefits you. There's a lot of struggle between now and then, but once you get to a certain level, life becomes easier. I saw this quote where Warren Buffett, they said $81 billion of his $84 billion net wealth came after he was 65 years old. So the majority of his wealth came at the latest point in his life. And even his sidekick, is it Charlie Munger?
Charlie Munger.
Charlie Munger. He says you have to get to your first 100K. It's a bitch, but after that, you can turn the foot off the accelerator.
I've seen that quote.
You need capital. You need something to start with. But once you've got it,
I would say now it's $1 million.
Oh yeah, it's changed.
Yeah, because that
was from the 80s.
That bloke's about 100 years old, right? So that was a long time ago. So adjusted for inflation,
it's about 1.5 million.
Yeah, I think it's about $1 million. If you can get to $1 million net worth, then mate, your life's going to be set. Because if you know how to make $1 million from nothing, you'll know how to turn that into 10 million.
That's it. So, and there's lots of ways to compound. Just for example, different assets you can compound in shares, DRP, dividend reinvestment plans. So I'll put money in, the dividend goes to buying more shares. Interest is the main one. You always hear compound interest. That's become redundant because interest is so low. So if you put 100 grand in the bank, compounded interest is not going to get you anywhere.
So you've got to be a bit more proactive with it.
Got to be proactive. Crypto, compounding crypto, you go backwards, so you lose money. So
it'll go back up again. It'll go back up again. But stay positive.
That's right. Yeah. But again, touching on how all these things overlap, compounding with leverage is what property is really, what you're doing. So you're going to use leverage money to compound your growth and keep doing it. So for example, you'll invest 80 grand into a property. After 3 or 4 years, it's worth an additional 80 to 100. You take that money that wasn't yours and then reinvest it again. So you're compounding leveraged money. So that can really turbocharge what you're doing. And it's essentially what we're doing with the 10-year acquisition strategy.
That's right. So if we follow Charlie Munger's $100,000 as a starting capital, right? And we've seen it a lot with our clients. They've started with 100 grand cash. They've gone and leveraged it into a $500,000 asset. That $500,000 asset's moved to $650,000. They've taken that new formed equity and then put it into their second property, and then it just keeps rolling on. And look, it doesn't happen instantly. Like it's a challenging road ahead, but it works, right? Like I did it myself. That I started with $70,000. I bought my first property at 340 grand. It went up by 90 grand in the first 18 months. Took that 90 grand. repeated the process, rinse and repeat, and then all of a sudden you've got 20 properties in your portfolio.
Compound with leverage is amazing.
That's actually a good book. I like that one by Mr. Housel.
Lots of different lessons in there. That's just I really like that one. It was very poignant.
Very good. I like that one, Sam. Not so boring. Let's move on to Stefan Aarnio. This guy he really touched me, because what happened was he recently died of colon cancer, and he was only 33.
33.
Yeah, this book was actually one of my favorite books. It's called Money People Deal, and he's done quite a few books. He's very, very good, and I'm spewing he's dead, because I would have loved to keep reading his material. Money People Deal it's a real estate book, right? But it's about your greatest asset, and it's people. And we talk about it all the time, whether it's partners, clients, friends, family. Your greatest asset in life is people, because people have what you want, whether it's money, whether it's information, whether it's knowledge,
time, skill.
Exactly.
Heaps
and if the better relationships you have, the better deals you can do. And he talks about how it's illegal to do insider trading with like shares and all of that sort of thing.
Still gets done.
It still gets done, but look, if you get caught, like your mate Oliver Curtis, you'll go to jail, right? But if you do it in real estate, it's perfectly legal. Insider trading in real estate is perfectly legal. If you know the right people, you know how to get wholesale, you know how to get off market, like you can do really well. Hence the reason why we've done well. Like all of our stuff is not at retail. It's because we know the right people. So I think people overlook the greatest asset that is in front of them, and it's not money, it's not real estate, it's people, it's relationships.
Just to clarify, my mate's not Oliver Curtis, but anyway, just in case anyone gets worried. No, I like the premise of that book where he says people, because really that emphasizes, like you said, they are like the glue that makes everything stick together and actually work. We talk about it a lot in business. Really, a business, whatever the business is, it's all about people. Even if you're making a product, you still gotta, whoever is the owner or the marketing team is dealing with other people wanting to buy the product. If you're a service-based business, it's about you dealing with other people. So really, at the end of the day, business in general, and it applies to property, is all about people. You need to be a people person really to succeed.
Well, I think that's what makes you, I guess, attractive as an accountant, Sam, because you're very good with people.
I thought it was my beard, mate.
Yeah, that too. Your beard and your Bart Simpson haircut. But like, it really is, because most accountants, I mean, let's not bag them out.
They don't talk.
They only know numbers, right? But the beauty of you is that you can actually talk to people and hold good relationships. And people love that. People love that about you.
At the end of the day, they just want someone to talk to about their situation. And if you can talk to someone and be there, listen to them and give them feedback, they'll
Mate, you do a very good job. I take my hat off to you. Very well done.
Thank
We're
you,
going to finish off with 50 Cent, Hustle
Oh,
Harder, Hustle Smarter.
the most exciting
It's
one.
a little bit of a fun one, right? And we all know 50 Cent has gone through, many different adversities. And I love 50 Cent because he just doesn't give a fuck about what anyone thinks, right? And it's funny because I'm not going to release it now, but my book title, when Forbes picked it up, they when we had the first meeting about it, they said, oh, maybe we might change the title because it's a bit offensive and all of that sort of thing. And I thought, you know what, like, no. Fuck that, right? Like, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow and I'm sitting in my grave, and am I going to be happy that I said to Forbes, hey, let's go on the conservative side? Or would I be happy that I just went, you know what, I don't care what people think? And this is a really, really good, I guess, lesson I took from 50 Cent. Just ruffle feathers.
Yeah, it's going to be memorable, really. And in the current world, there's so many alternatives and options and choices. You really have to stand out. So by the name of your book being something that might be controversial, I only see that as a good thing. I'm surprised they actually said that to you. Because in there, really, they're in business as well with you. They'd be in partnership, right? So I would think having a controversial title would sell more books and maybe get more exposure, more eyes on.
You would think so. You would think so. But there are always haters within organizations, right, that don't want to see you succeed secretly.
Yep.
Like we presented my book to about 42 different Australian publishers, and no one wanted to pick it up.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But the people that wanted to pick it up in America were Forbes.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell every Australian publisher, fuck you, right? I've got Forbes behind me, right? And it's gonna shit on every property and personal finance book out there. We've got 2, so stay tuned.
When's it coming?
October.
October.
I'm hoping October, but there's a paper shortage at the moment, so we
We'll
might
have an e-book.
We might have to go ebook. But I really, really want it in paperback. But look, getting back to 50 Cent, you know, there were plenty of good lessons in that book, and a lot of people just know him as a rapper or you know, some sort of gangster or whatever. But like, he is a very successful businessman. He has he implements tremendous discipline into his lifestyle. Like, he doesn't smoke, drink. He trains every day. So some really, really good lessons there for our listeners. And you wouldn't think so from a person like that. So that's a really fun one. So I hope we've sort of covered the, you know, extremely boring stuff from Giannis Go and Get Fucked, and then all the way to Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks, Sam.
No, thank you.
Thanks for reading those books that I didn't want to read and giving me the review on them.
I'm gonna go have a nap now.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
See ya.